Okay, so now that we've completed our front and back exterior panels and we've attached our handles using the hidden connectors, I'm going to show you how to do the handle hack using no hardware. So you'll have a front panel or back panel piece that will look like this, all constructed with your zipper and everything attached, and your lining pocket pieces. You're going to take your super pocket backer, you're going to lay it right side up on your table. Then you're going to lay this with the lining side facing against the right side of the super pocket backer, and you're going to pin it in place. Clip or pin all around the edges, lining everything up. And then we're going to baste this together. So now that it's all clipped, I'm going to baste this together. This is going to create the pocket so that when you reach inside, you have the back of the pocket and the front of the pocket. Don't forget to change your stitch length back after you've basted your super pocket backer in place. So now it will look like this. When you open it up, your pocket is complete. Forgot to take my little label off. And your pocket's complete. Now we need to make some marks for where we're placing the handles. You'll want to open your zipper so that your zipper is not in the way, because I find when you're trying to use a ruler, unless you have a smaller one, it gets in the way and then you can't get an accurate measurement. So on page 30, she tells you what lines to, where to mark the lines, how far. You're going to be marking from the center of this diamond over to the left, and from the center of the diamond over to the right. So I'm going to make my marks now. So I've made my marks. Now you need your handle. So you're going to place your handle at these marks, lining up the edge of your handle with the mark that you made. The other thing she has you do is leave an inch overhang. You can go ahead and make a mark on your handle if you prefer for where the inch overhang is, but what I like to do is stick my ruler underneath, lining this up so that there's an inch. Just like that. Oops. And then I just line up the top of my handle with the top of the ruler, and then I clip it in place. This way here I don't have to make any marks on my handles. Make sure your handle's not twisted when you're putting it to the other side. Line up the edge of the handle with the edge of the mark you made. And it'll look just like that when it's clipped in place. Now we're going to baste the handle to the exterior panel. So there you go. That is how it will look with your handles stitched in place. Next thing you need is your TZP piece, or trim and zipper panel piece. You're going to align the raw edges of the trim and zipper panel with the top edge of your exterior panel piece. Clip it in place. When you're stitching, you want to make sure your handles stay straight, so I like to clip some clips just like that on the handles to help hold them straight while I'm stitching. You don't want your handles going like on an angle while you're stitching. So I like to just add some extra clips around the handles just to help hold them nice and straight. There we go. And now I'm going to stitch this top edge using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, so that is stitched in place. It'll look like this, stitched in place. Now you're going to flip your trim and zipper panel up and your handles up. You can't press this if you're using vinyl, cork, or faux leather, so you just have to press it up with your hands. A little bit of chalk there. If you used cotton, quilt cotton, you can go ahead and press this. I will warn, if you've used cotton, cork, faux leather, or vinyl for your handles, it is going to be a bit thick, so you may need to switch your needle to a bigger needle, and you'll also want to adjust your tension, adjust your stitch length. If your machine seems to have some problems with stitching so much bulk, you can also try a walking foot. So now you'll press this so that everything is pressed up towards the top of the panels. You're going to top stitch this edge using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way across. You're stitching over the handles as well, so make sure they're pressed up as well. If you are, just a little note, if you are worried about bulk and you're worried your machine won't be able to go through one layer of handle, the trim and zipper panel, and then these handles, you could always push this up, top stitch across this, and then when we get to the next part, you can use the rivets like I'm going to, just to attach it here. That's if you're worried about your machine being able to handle sewing through all the bulk. Go nice and slow when you're stitching so that it makes sure that you don't get any skip stitches or anything like that, and it helps. And there you have it. Top stitched straight across, right over the handles and over the handles at the back. They will be pushed up as well. So you're stitching through 2 layers of your handles and the zipper panel. Next, you can do as she suggests in the hack, which is sew a 3/4 inch size box on top of your handles. So you'll make a mark and you'll sew a 3/4 inch box just right here. So you'll include this seam allowance as the bottom portion of the box. So line up your ruler with your top stitching line and make a mark for a 3/4 inch box. I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to install a rivet in my handles right through all 3 layers. I like to install my rivet a 1/2 inch up and centered. So a 1/2 inch up and centered from this top stitch line that I just did. So make a mark. Another thing to help hold your handle in place is add some wonder clips just to keep it straight again so that you don't have a wonky angled handle. All right, so I've made my marks. I'm gonna go ahead and punch my holes. Make sure that the back side of that handle is there as well. You're catching it when you're punching your holes. You wanna go through all 3 layers. Sometimes I need an awl to help punch the holes because there is so many layers. Add your rivets. I'm using the medium rivets. They have a longer post because there is so much layers. So it's a 9mm cap with an 8mm post. And there you have it. You have your handles installed with rivets, or you've sewn a box. If you sew a box and you don't want to use rivets, you can sew the box and put an X through it. If you don't have rivets, you can also use Chicago screws. They're a great alternative to rivets. Or you can just do as I did. Don't sew a box at all and just use your rivets. They will be stitched down when we do the top stitching later as well, so you'll have the extra security of your top stitching down here and then your top stitching when you sew the final stitching for the bag. And that is it. That is how you attach the handle using no hardware, or with a little bit of hardware using a rivet or Chicago screws. The final thing you need to do with this piece is add the bottom TZP, trim and zipper panel, to the bottom of the bag. Just as we did up here, you'll clip it in place and sew it with 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now that that is sewn together, you'll push your trim and zipper panel away from the exterior panel. If you are using something that can be ironed, you can go ahead and give it a press. I cannot iron this, so I'm just going to press it with my hands and top stitch that down. You're top stitching through the exterior panel, one of the trim and zipper panels, and then the top of the trim and zipper panel. And that's how that will look with the bottom trim and zipper panel attached. I also attached one of my logos here in this bottom corner, just a little handmade tag. That's how your bag will start looking. I used a double-sided strap as well, and that is the front and back of my bag, how it will look.